Hello guys, so here is the part 2 of the continuation of making the off-shoulder with the ruffle skirts. So if you haven't watched the first part of the video, please, I'll be linking it, go watch it. So now let's begin with this skirt tutorial. If you're new to my channel, please kindly subscribe and like, and let's continue.
So now I'm just going to be drafting my skirt pattern. I already have a video on how to draft a skirt pattern, so I'm just going to quickly do that. So before we begin, you're going to also keep in mind the length of the actual skirts you want, including the ruffles included. You keep in mind the length of the actual gown length you want from your waist. So we're dealing with the skirt pattern, so you measure from your waist down to where you want your gown length to be. So the ruffles included as well. So I'm using 20 inches for that. So I will measure 20 inches on my pattern. And connect. So if we look closely at the picture, you will notice that the ruffles are beginning from somewhere around here. So you will come down on your pattern by 3 inches. And you come down by 3 inches, you mark. Then on her hip, you can make this a back waistline. You can connect straight up to the hip point, but you can also, but we're using the picture as illustration. So for that, we are coming out by 1 inch from the center front. This is how it's going to be. And then you can connect this with either a straight line, a straight rule. You can connect this with either a straight rule or a curved rule. I want to use a curved rule because I want a bit of a slight curve on this skirt, so I'm going to be using a curved rule. Now we are done with this. I want you to keep in mind this length from this point to this point, your actual skirt line. I want you to keep that in mind. You're going to measure from this point to this point. You're going to measure that. You're going to keep it in mind. You're also going to measure from this point. You're going to measure this way and this way. You're going to also keep that in mind. So now I'm using a small scale pattern, but let me explain something to you. If I were to do this, I have 1 inch here, and then I raise it, and I have roughly 6 inches. I have roughly 6 inches. So this pattern is on fold now. I'm going to times this 6 inches by 2, which will give me 12. So totally, if I were to make this for this small scale, please, when you're doing yours, use your adult measurements. Use your adult measurements and your full size measurements. If I were to make this 12 inches now, if I wanted to make the ruffles, I would just measure whatever I have from here to my skirt length. So for this, my small scale, I have 5.5 inches. So I have, for my length, I have 5.5 inches. So now to draft these ruffles for this way, I'm going to measure. I'm going to measure 5.5 inches. I'm going to measure my 5.5 inches. Here is going to be 5.5 inches. Then this 12 inches I got here, I'm going to times it by 3. We're timesing this by 3, so it will have a very full effect at the end of the day when it's gathered. It's going to have a very full effect at the end of the day when it's gathered. So if we should times this by 3 now, it's going to be giving us 36. So now this length would then, I'll just make a strip of fabric, a very long, it's going to end up being a very long strip of fabric when you do this on a full scale adult size. So I'm going to have 36 inches. So I'm having 5.5 inches for this and 36 inches for this. So now this 36 inch, I'm then going to gather it up. I'm going to sew lines and then gather this fabric up and place it on my full pattern. Remember, this 36 inches is for both the two fronts and back. Like now we're just working on fold. This 36 inches is for both, like when you have your full front pattern. So whatever I get, whatever you get when you times it by 3, you're going to gather it up into your entire pattern, and that is your front pattern. Basically same thing. Remember to mark your skirt length. When you mark that, you spread that out. This is a very easy pattern. So now, just like our front pattern, I'm just taking my front pattern to make everything easier. I'm placing it. Then same place I mark this slant, I'm going to be marking it here. And once you mark that, you are then going to connect this together. So this is how your back is going to look. To add zip here, you're going to add zip allowance for the center back. This is your center front. Remember, we're going to be cutting this off. We're going to be cutting this whole thing off. And then for the back ruffles, just same thing as the front. You're going to measure this whole place and then times it by 2 because your back is on fold. You will times it by 2. Also remember to add your allowances, your sewing allowance, and then also your zip allowance to whatever you're making. When you times it by 2, you're then going to times it by 3 and make a strip of fabric using the remaining points of your using the remaining length of your skirt as the length. You're going to make a straight fabric. Measure here, times it by 2 because your fabric is on fold, is half. You're going to times it by 2, then times it by 3. Then when you've gotten it, that long strip of fabric, you will then gather it and attach it to this point. So this is how our front and our back is looking. Please put a zip here. I hope you enjoy it. If you want me to make a sewing illustration for you, please tell me. Please tell me. I'm going to do it for you. And also, if you have other illustrations you don't understand, you can also slide into my DM. My contact is in the description box. Thank you and see you next time.